Hey guys, welcome back to Sideline Sports. This is Trevor, your host. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I got my co-host here, Alex. We're going to be talking about 49er football today, and the chances of them making the playoffs just went from slim to pretty much none. With a loss to the Rams, it was 12-6. It was a pretty ugly game for the offense. The defense showed up, and I was impressed with that. But unfortunately, the offense kind of embodied what this whole year really felt like, which was just mistake after mistake. And we have some examples of that we're going to go into. Let's talk a little bit about the stats. Purdy was 14 for 31 with 142 yards. Isaac Garindo, the backup running back, 16 carries for 57 yards, not outstanding. Deebo, we're going to get into more with him. 2 carries for 3 yards, 3 receptions for 16 yards. 100. I wish it was over 100 yards. Pearsall had 1 reception for 16 yards. And we're going to talk about Devondre Campbell basically quitting on the team and where we're going from here. So, I don't know. What do you think, Alex? We talked a little bit about Deebo a few minutes ago before we jumped online here. So, my opinion is he's not going to be back after this year. I never really thought he was going to be, but after this last game, it kind of solidified that. He complained a lot about getting the ball prior to this game. And then the coach force fed him many, many plays, and not a whole lot came out of it.
I have thought for a while, and at first I thought, why are they misusing him years ago when, it's like the Devo show. I'm like, well, why'd you forget about Kittle? Kittle becomes a breakout star. They get Devo or Devo breaks out. And all of a sudden they forget about Kittle and they're like, let's run, you know, Devo in the backfield. Let's have him be special teams. I'm like, why are you doing that? And now I'm realizing he's not a great route runner, and I think he's kind of like a Kaepernick, where he's a toy that nobody understood. So Shanahan was able to sneak a bunch of trick Globetrotter like plays, cue the music, the Globetrotters, and then the league figured him out.
Yeah.
And if you're a guy who's complaining about getting the ball and then you just choke when you could take it to the hole, like you're looking ahead and you should be catching it. I'm not a receiver. And even I know, like, figure it out first, get the ball first, then go down the field.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if Shanahan wanted to make a point. I'm not saying he's throwing the game. I wouldn't accuse him of that. But I almost wonder if, like, okay, we're gonna feed you like
Yeah. I agree. I
crazy,
think I
and
definitely.
either you're and again, I'm not saying he's trying to throw the game, but that
Yeah.
I think that put the nail in the coffin for it. Like that, his look on the sideline and the fans booing. It's like, sorry, you're gone,
Yeah.
and you know, I like him as a person. I don't think I have any problem with that, but skills are declining, and that's the money to pay Purdy and keep other guys too. I mean, they just paid Trent Williams. I don't know what the contract status on some of the other guys are, but I think he's got to be done. I think Pearsall will mature, and I've seen some stuff, some flashes from him.
Hmm.
He can be a nice third option behind, or fourth behind IU, Kittle, Jennings, but he can do some dirty work. And I
Hmm.
don't think there's a place for Debo. And I
No,
don't want
and
to pay him
the
that
thing
much
is,
money.
Deebo became a running back because there was injuries to the running game. So he was a wide receiver, and he was an okay one. It was fine. But what they really saw is that when they just gave him the ball and let him run down the field, he had a toughness about him that we just don't see anymore. He's not running guys over, and when he's getting the ball, he's not doing much with it. So there is a decline. You're right. There's a decline in the performance, and also somebody's got to go to pay Brock Purdy. So more than one somebody, but he's going to be that man out. You need to keep Kittle. He's like one of the best TDs in the league. You got Jennings who had a breakout. Brandon Ayuk's not going anywhere, and Christian McCaffrey's not going anywhere. Right. So that leaves Deebo, one of your bigger
Yeah.
contracts to kind of shed. So that's where they're going to be looking. So yeah, I agree with you. He's gonna, and the next question is what do you do with all these guys now that you're pretty much out of the playoffs? Do you just say forget it, let's sit them, not let's get them their rest. Let's see what Pearsall can do for the next 3 games.
Oh,
What do
no,
we
first
have
thing
in
you get
Pearsall?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
One thing
good.
is get Kittle to 1,000. Like I'm a Kittle honk, I'm a
Yeah.
Kittle apologist, simp, whatever you want to say. Get him to 1,000. Like keep him happy. Like, hey, you had a really good season. You deserve to have that to help your Hall of Fame chances and to keep morale up. But yes, I agree. Sorry to have stepped on you.
No.
Pearsall, yes. Let's see what he can do. I like him. I've seen some stuff from him. That's what got a Ayuk his contract. That's what got Jennings that kind of like I will do these dirty little play. Like the chain moving. Like Ayuk was that chain mover, and I would be like, oh, he moved the chains. Or Jennings, like that was a tough catch.
Mm-hmm.
Like the John. I've always been a fan of like players like John Taylor. I liked him almost better than Jerry Rice because yeah, Rice had all the Hall of Fame stuff, but you remember that John Taylor touchdown run. You remember
Yeah.
like you need a nasty cab, get you that. And I can see a little bit of that from Pearsall. Let him have you know, let him have that. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
He's
it,
not a number
it,
one wide receiver. He's not, but he is a good number two or number three, possibly. He's very fast. He can stretch the
yep.
field. So
I
that's
didn't
what
realize he's 6'3". I thought he was. I don't know. I don't know why I thought he
he
was like a
doesn't
six
look
one.
that big, but I believe he's probably 6'3". Yeah.
I think he's 6'3", and that's a great height. I mean, there's ways around it. There's great short receivers, or what like. Um,
Yeah, for a wide receiver, I mean Jerry Rice was probably 6'1", 6'2", I think. I
oh
don't
no, it's saying
probably
6'1", like
similar.
you
So
Pearsall.
yeah, well,
Still,
I
that's
mean
good.
he looks tall. He fits the build, and he has the speed. It's always about whether or not he can go a full season, because this is still his first season, but go a full season without getting injured. So as long as he can stay healthy going into next season, we should take these next few games to see what they got in Pearsall for real, because I saw him make a few catches against the Rams that
Yes.
I thought looked good. So I want to see more from Pearsall. I don't Garindo, I still like, but the problem is how do you evaluate your running game when your offensive line is failing? If you looked at that Rams game, Brock Purdy did not have a good game. Partially because I think some of the throws he made were not good, but he only had a few seconds to throw the ball. His offensive line is not there. And we have Dominic Pooney, that rookie, who is amazing. And lucky we caught this guy in the draft where we did. We didn't realize what we got with him. But aside from him and Williams, everybody else on the offensive line is replaceable, and they're going to need to upgrade. We don't know how long Williams is going to be there. Trent Williams is 36 years old. He could be going this. He could retire after this year or next year. It's going to be soon. So we need to upgrade that offensive line. If you look at some of those seasons that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in, we have more weapons on this Niner team than Tom Brady ever had. And he got it done because his offensive line, he never got touched. How often do you remember Tom Brady getting sacked? I don't remember it happening very often. So we need to build on those not so glamorous positions to protect your asset, which is going to be your, quarterback you're going to sign in the offseason. And who knows if you break a record and how much he's going to get paid or whatnot, whatever that's, I mean, I don't know if he's worth,
Yeah.
you know, top notch number one quarterback money,
He's not. I
but
mean, even with all those injuries, you got to step.
yeah,
You got to step up. I mean, before Randy Moss and stuff, like, and obviously Gronkowski. Name some of or Deion Branch. Name some of
yeah,
Tom Brady's receivers.
yeah, very hard
And
to. I mean, they had aside
yeah.
from Randy Moss, like you said, Deion Branch. I think I I can't. I mean, there was a lot of
Well, I
plug and
thought out to
play.
end some form of cancer or something.
Yeah, I know liver cancer, which is
I don't
horrible.
think he's not worth money. Like there have been some games where I've seen Purdy just so well, but he didn't do well in snow, didn't do
Yeah,
well in rain. That's not good. He's got to get better at that.
yeah,
However, I was just looking it up. The Niners have the 13th overall pick if the season ended today. They moved up 6 spots from where they were when they beat the Bears. I'm not saying to
hmm
tank anything, but you're going to be in the top 20, and either that's trade bait or you're replenishing. So if you're in win now mode and you end up, let's say they end the season and they're the 13th overall pick, is that plus Deebo? Does that get you either flexibility and or some player? Because it's not like Debo's completely worthless. I mean,
no,
it's just
not
that
at
he's
all.
not, you know.
Not at all. He's
So if you
just
trade
not. You
him,
just have to clear space for Purdy. That's the
right?
bottom line. You wouldn't
Right.
just cut Deebo because of the performance on versus the Rams, but you have to think about who are we cutting to save some cap space. The Niners are at about 212 million. The cap is 250 million, and you have to pay Brock Purdy in the offseason. That means you have to shed money, and it's not
Yeah.
going to just be Deebo. There are some bright sides to this. We had Dre Greenlaw come back, and he had eight
Wow, was that a
tackles.
revelation?
Yeah, yeah,
Man, they didn't have a first down in the first half because I was like, oh, we got, because I remember I think I was texting you. I'm like, we have Greenlaw, Bosa, and Warner, and they just like were like no first downs. And I was
yeah.
like, oh, this is what we are. This is what
That,
the potential is. I saw
yeah.
a Super Bowl caliber team for like half of a game,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
he goes out, and it's like, I don't know. You might have to shut Greenlaw. I don't want him to like. I just don't want
I don't know
anything
if
more to
I'd shut
happen to
him
him.
down. I'd put him on a count,
Well,
a play count for sure. And we're forgetting Hafunga came back too, and he was a ball
yes,
hawk all
yeah,
over the
yeah.
field. So
I forgot about that.
there
Yeah.
are this team, if they were not injured, okay, we're looking at a totally different team. Are they a Super Bowl contending team? Maybe, but they're definitely not this. This team has been plagued by injuries so bad that I think they're going to come back next year and be very strong, especially on defense. But I do have a critical thing about the coach there. I don't like the defensive coordinator, and I do want him
Oh, yeah.
replaced.
No.
So
Now he's probably going to go. Although,
yeah,
again, it is hard in his defense to play devil's advocate.
yeah,
That half that was as him with the defensive coordinator, I was like, kind of, I don't know. I mean, I would be fine either way. Like if he
yeah.
comes back next year and he's got the players and is like, oh, hey, maybe it was just he didn't have anybody. But if they also fire him and grab like Salah back,
Mm-hmm.
um, although, and maybe I'm wrong, but I always felt like with Salah, he was like the pass rush, but the running game, he wasn't as good. Was it D'Amico Ryan's followed him, right? He's now at the Texans. I
Yeah,
like D'Amico Ryan's better. I thought he had a more overall good defense, where I felt
yeah. There
Salah was a
were.
little heavy on the rush, but we were
Mm-hmm.
good either. We were good. The Niners were good either way. So if they brought Salah back, I would be happy for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think my cousin was talking about that.
I'd take either
Um,
one, but say you can't get Sala back, then fine. Maybe we ride with this defensive coordinator a little bit longer. I don't know. I didn't like him the whole year. I just didn't like how he was utilizing his players.
I
I would
agree.
rather see them go in a different direction, but we'll see. I do want him gone. I think the special teams coach should definitely be gone.
Oh,
They had the worst special teams in the league
gone, gone.
by far. By
We
far.
everyone started at the 50-yard line. It was like, wait, why are they at the 50-yard line?
Yeah.
Like everyone was starting at the 50-yard line on
Yeah.
us. Like it was just like this is ridiculous. It's
Yep.
hot. It's a hot dumpster fire. It's super weak. I
Mm,
mean, gone are the days where you're blaring Tony Montana and just trucking people.
I know.
Like the Harbaugh era, that special team. I mean, it, I feel like special teams. I mean, kickers are part of special teams. I
Yeah.
feel like it's like kickers where it's like you're like, whatever, or like a cornerback being a luxury, like a elite cornerback. When you have them, you don't realize how good it make how much how important they are. You don't. You're like, oh, but yeah, the special teams just and yeah, all the dumb penalties. Like even Kittle had like
Yeah.
a dumb penalty, and it's so and he like immediately like it's so uncharacteristic, but just drive killing penalties.
Yeah.
And I think that one
Yep.
was it Kittle or there was one on Deebo it was where it was like literally just kept their drive alive, and it was
I
just like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kittle with the third down, or
yeah, it was
yeah,
like an automatic
It
first
was
down.
Kittle on a third down. It would have been a conversion. Yeah. So I mean, it's just this game, like I said, I think this game just encapsulates the feeling of the entire year. It was just like it's right there for the taking, but not you're just not taking it. You're just not taking it for whatever reason. It could be I've been critical of play calling. I've been critical of the defensive coordinators schemes. I've been critical of all that. The players have been hurt though, and there's just no this team was just destined to not have a great year this year. You have the Super Bowl hangover, but everybody was hurt. That was a
Yeah,
superstar. Kittle, Deebo, Ayuk, Brock Purdy, Bosa,
yeah, he
Greenlaw
missed
was
games
out.
too.
I mean,
Yeah,
everybody was out. Everybody was
it
out.
was
Funga. I mean,
Yeah. The Thursday Night Football crew was saying it was like the most in history or something. Like it was, or 30 years, I think they said.
yeah.
It was the
And,
most. They also, but they also misidentified
mm,
Trent Williams as
yeah,
the player on the ground. I was like,
I
and then
know.
later in the game, I'm
I
watching. I'm like,
know.
why?
It's
When did
like
he get into a booth?
somebody's
A
getting
suite?
fired. That is not Trent Williams.
Yeah. And
I know. It's
yeah, epic amount of it was just like, can we have anybody? And like, oh great, Jordan Mason, he's doing well for replacing McCaffrey. And then it's like, oh,
yeah.
Jordan Mason's hurt. And you're like,
Yep.
even
Then he's
the
hurt.
revelation of, what was it, the game? Was it the game that was over your house where we were watching the Jets and Mason just carved him up?
Yeah.
And I was like, great, like maybe we can let McCaffrey heal up. And then it's like Jordan Mason has a shoulder injury. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and then Grando, his ankle's like, stop, no, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Like, don't you say anything. It's like
I know. I know. You're going through
Bosa's
running
out for
backs
like a
like
3 game
crazy.
stretch. Yeah,
I don't know if it's some sort of. I don't.
it's the
Cannot
price
place
of
your
getting the
finger
playoffs
on
that many
how
times.
this is happening to the 49ers, okay? That's the bottom line, guys. We do not know how the 49ers are this injury prone, but they are, and it's a wash. So when they come back next season, don't be surprised if they end up looking like the 49ers from 2 years ago and not this season, is the bottom line. Um, Deebo probably won't be there, but Purdy will absolutely get that contract. What that's worth,
Yeah,
no. I would love to see them do like a backloading kind of a contract, like what they did with like Mahomes, where he's getting paid more on the back end, and then that leaves room for a cap space for the next 2, 3 years, 4 years. That would be nice if they could do something like that. I don't think they're going to, just because he's not a 10-year contract kind of guy. I think Mahomes signed like a crazy 7 or 10 year contract. I don't know what it was. Brock Purdy's not that. But if they can figure out a way to do like some sort of backloaded contract where they can free up money now, it would help an awful lot. I don't think that saves Deebo necessarily. And you're right. I mean, I'd rather see them. I hate to say this, but I don't hate to say this. I'd rather see them lose the rest of the games, move up higher in the draft or lower in the draft, any way you want to say it, and maybe get like a 10 or a 9 spot there and draft. But when they look at who they're drafting, I think it needs to be, like I said, it can't be a sexy pick. It's got to be like, I'm not talking about quarterback, wide receiver, running back. I'm talking about
no,
offensive linemen. I'm talking
O
about
line, D line.
defensive linemen, defensive line. We need pass rush really bad. You might even trade that pick for a really good, experienced pass rusher to go along with Bosa, because we don't really have that. I mean, now that Greenlaw is back, we have the middle of the field with him and Hafunga and Mustafa as a rookie playing really well. And everybody, we got everybody there. So we just need, I mean, we could upgrade a corner probably as well, but we need our defensive linemen to put pressure on the quarterback. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who you have out there in the middle of the field guarding the rest of the team. If the quarterback's got 10 seconds to throw the ball, he's going to complete that pass at some point or just run it, whatever.
I think
Yeah, I don't know.
I
That's my,
think the corners are not terrible because Lenore and
yeah,
Charvarius Ward, like I think they're solid enough. I
yeah,
think that the problem for them is since there's no, I mean, Stafford was just standing there like a statue and had all day, and when he wasn't running it, I think that they're okay. I think they're fine. Like
yeah, I
Lenore just
agree. I
got a
mean,
big
that's not where
contract.
you would spend
Travarius,
your draft pick. I wouldn't be upgrading at
no,
corner
I'd be up
necessarily.
inside
Yeah,
out, like Harbaugh would always say, inside out. But Walsh, like the start at the O line or in the D line, like really protect Purdy, give him even more time to go through his progressions, and also to help the run game and punch holes and definitely with the D line to help Bosa.
five minutes.
And who's the other guy who's he used to go to school with, who's now on the Niners? His
Um,
college buddy.
it was,
What
well, he's
what
not
great
there
insight.
anymore. It's
What
not,
great. Oh,
he's with the
oh,
Saints,
he's
I
not.
think.
See what a great football
Um,
mind I am.
yeah,
But yeah,
I
like
can't
I would
remember
say,
his name either, but he's on the Saints. He's doing okay. I think he's on the Saints, I believe.
oh, okay.
What the hell is
Well,
his
just
name?
more, yeah.
He
D
came
line
from
help to help
Washington. Either
Bosa,
way, yeah,
and I would say, yeah, no, I agree. No sexy. There doesn't need to be. I want the structural, the foundational pieces. Like, I mean, maybe some special teams help. But I
Yeah.
really think that you could probably, with some better schemes, you know, I would say D line, O line, like make sure that if you're going to pay Purdy, you should protect him. So maybe an O line kind of a thing.
Yeah. I definitely
Um,
think the O line and I definitely think the D line are where you need to focus on the offseason. They have the weapons on offense. They don't need to go get a tight end, or they have their wide receivers, especially when Brandon Ayuk comes back. He'll be back. Hopefully, he performs better this next year after the holdout and everything. He'll have training camp. He'll get back up to speed. Hopefully, with Purdy, you have Christian McCaffrey, who's going to be 100%. You'll have Mason, who's going to be 100%. So that the offense isn't where you need to focus, other than the offensive line. I still think it's really hard to decide whether you would rather see them upgrade the offensive line or defensive line, but they got to do both. That's the bottom line. And they still have to sign Purdy, which is a tall task. So I don't
do
know.
you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that part of the problem with the D line is not having Greenlaw, is not having Hafanga, Bosa being missing for a few games?
I
Like
don't think so. There was no sacks in this game. If you look at this, they had 0 sacks
okay,
on the game. It's
yeah,
I don't think that's it. They just don't have the pass rusher. They need
no,
they need an
sure,
elite pass
especially with
rusher, and Bosa's not that guy.
yeah,
He's good, but he's not getting at the quarterback. He's not. So he would be if there was more than one threat. Okay, but there's not. It's only
yeah.
him. So
I mean, if Trent Williams, I mean, again, like you said, if Trent Williams retires, then O line becomes more of
huge
a
problem.
concern.
Yeah,
So
huge. Yeah.
that's probably the problem Shanahan and Lynch have. Is you're right. Yeah, there was not nearly enough pressure. Is that also somewhat the scheme? Are they not running up stuff? Do they not feel they have the personnel behind them to account for putting more guys up front to blitz?
Yep.
Like
Yep. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because I don't like this defensive coordinator. I don't know if that
I
has
don't
anything
like them
to do
either.
with it. Bosa hasn't really gotten pressure at the quarterback much this year or last year, so I can't put it on the defensive coordinator 100%. I do think they need a pass rusher, but I do also think if they don't upgrade that offensive line now, when Trent Williams retires, they've got a huge problem. So they got to do something. And even though you have Trent Williams and you have Dominic Mooney, getting that extra guy in there anyway to really beef up that offensive line is a good idea. So either way, I'd like to see those two things happen in some sort of. I mean, I'd be happy with either way, either choice. I just don't want to see them waste this draft pick on something that is not needed. So that's all I'm thinking. So
Yeah,
and then the last thing the last thing I would like, we have to talk about Devondre Campbell because the guy in the middle of the third quarter was asked to go in and he just said, you know what, I don't feel like playing today, and got up and walked to the locker room. I I've heard this I've heard the term treason being thrown around. I like that word. He's definitely he should never be able to play on the team again. I think it's bullshit. And when you're part of a 49 or any football team, really, you don't abandon your players. You don't abandon your guys like that. It's just an unwritten rule. It's probably a written rule somewhere, but that is like the worst thing you can do on a football team is let your guys hang out to dry like that. I don't expect him to be back on the team. I've never seen anything like that.
he's gone. From all the reports I've seen, he's gone, and nobody in the world defended him. Like
Yeah.
Richard Sherman was trashing him. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the players were echoing the same thing. Like Charvarius in the interview in the locker room.
Yeah.
I don't even know this guy that could hear it or if he was already home. He's like, yeah, he's probably not on the team. Like this is a clip on a website I'm seeing saying Kittle talking about it. I don't know the volume obviously, but it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely he's gone now. He was even something that waits for the offseason. I think that was like the night of they probably had something where it's like he's out.
Yeah.
Like that's just if you're like what was it maybe it was Richard Sherman was like you're upset that Greenlaw started over you. Like not just anybody, Trey Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Like of course he started over you. No
Mm-hmm.
offense to you, but it's that guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like
Yeah.
he came back and he was like, "Oh, I got to knock the rust off." He came back and started whooping, opened a can of whoop ass
Yep.
on the Rams. It was like, yes, let's go. I was just like, this is great. Like he was
Mhm.
flying around. It freed up Fred Warner. And Fred Warner had a scary like moment when he came back, but
Yeah.
it was like, yes, now like, and Bosa could be more Bosa. Fred Warner could be free to do his thing, and Hafanga's back, so it frees all those. I mean, all those guys are freeing each other up to
Yeah.
be themselves,
Yep.
and you're like, let's go.
Hmm.
But even still, where's the pressure on the quarterback? So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think it was better, but I think that defensive coordinator still needs to go because you have all those guys, and yeah, you weren't allowing them first downs, but you got to be putting Matthew Stafford on his ass.
Totally. At
Like,
least once or twice. I mean, the
yeah,
guy's not mobile at all. And
no,
their offensive line is okay. But to not get one sack the entire game, that's by anybody on the team is just, it's not good. They need to improve on that. So we'll see where it goes, but definitely Campbell will never be wearing a 49er jersey again. And
nope,
I'd be surprised if I saw him on any team. Somebody might take a flyer and give him a shot. But if you look at players who, I mean, even the Warriors benched Draymond Green for a night to play Kaminga, who is a lot younger, and you didn't see him say, I'm not going in if you're not going to play me. And he's the more senior championship pedigree player. And, you just don't do that on your team. You do what the coach is asking
no,
you to do. That's it. This guy had no reason, Campbell had no reason to compare himself to Dre Greenlaw yet. No way. He just isn't that player. And if he thinks he is, then I don't know what he's smoking, but I want some of that too. Because that's crazy if he thinks somehow he, in that time period, somehow earned that spot over Greenlaw. There's no way. There's just no way. So, yep, he's gone. I'm glad to see a player like that gone. It's not, you don't need that kind of cancer in your locker room. And
no,
so now it's just a matter of looking forward to next year and seeing what's going on. I mean, can they still make the playoffs? They have a 2% chance. That means that they would have to win out, and that means being the Lions. Not going to happen. But some crazy ass miracle, the Niners win out, and Seattle loses out, and the Cardinals lose, and the Rams lose, then the Niners would make the playoffs. So let's just say we're talking more. Obviously, this whole thing is talking more about what we're expecting to see going into next year and what we hope to see. Um, but at this moment, guys, I think this is pretty much everything we wanted to cover for the Niners this week, and we'll be back to cover them next week. After I think we're playing the Dolphins, I believe we're playing the Dolphins on Sunday. So Alex and I will be back to do the post game either Sunday or most likely Monday. I'm trying to get back on track with the holidays. I seem to be becoming more and more lazy. So I'm trying to get back on the Monday 49er podcast like I'm supposed to. So we're going to try and do that on Monday. Until then, guys, have a good one. Thank you very much for watching our podcast. And remember to hit the like and subscribe on the way out. And we'll see you in the next one.